right. Welcome to week 9 of United We Taste. My name is McCoy, sommelier from New York City, currently living in Lisbon, Portugal, however, quarantined in New York. But that's okay, because I have my family here from both the travel industry and the wine industry for this special co-brand sponsored. We're celebrating 2 months. I can't believe that I've made it even in quarantine that long. But we've made it, and we're celebrating with some amazing people, and I want to make sure they introduce themselves before we get into the tasting. So Kenecia, go ahead, kick it off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kenecia Lasche, and I'm the creator of Passport to Pretty. I've traveled to over 40 countries, exploring not only delicious wines, of course, but also beauty rituals and spiritual rituals as well. And I'm excited to be here. This feels amazing.
Okay. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hello, my name is Kelly Mitchell. I am a New York Metro-based wine salesperson, wine educator, and consultant. Thank you so much for including me, child. This is going to be so awesome. Looking forward to tasting with everyone.
All right, CiCi.
Hello, everyone. My name is CiCi Battle. I'm a social impact strategist and current executive director, but my real zhuzh is all things travel because I'm a whole Sagittarius. I'm over 40 countries right now. I used to live in South America, and wine and all things beauty is my jam. So excited to be here with my girl.
My brother Charles, my wine brother Charles. And just let me make sure I make that clear for those who know me in real life. I have a real brother Charles, so I have to make sure I make it clear. This is my wine brother Charles, okay?
So my name is Charles Springfield. I am a certified sommelier, wine educator, and book author based in Manhattan, in Harlem. I've been in the wine business for about 10 years, doing a lot of wine classes, private events, corporate events, and really focused on wine education. So I'm really excited to be a part of this panel today. Thank you, Cha.
All right, so you've met everyone, and just a little bit more information on United We Taste. So every week, Shakera, Shakera, guess what? The vineyards is killing me. You know what? You just disappeared.
Lost among the vines.
Oh God, I'm sorry. How I forget my boo? Shakera is the one where I'm doing late night drinking. I'm with Shakera. So there you go, Shakera.
Oh man, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I am based in New York. Day job, I am in tech in the security realm, and that causes a lot of stress, so I drink a lot. I love tasting great wines, and right now I'm focused on really wine education and helping other people look like me break down the barriers and complexities of tasting and enjoying wine. And I am thrilled to be here with you guys.
Sorry. And so United We Taste is an idea that came together between Philippe and I as we were studying wine virtually online, and actually how can we still have the camaraderie you would normally have with our peers, which would be tasting groups. Usually someone will call you over, hey, I got these wines, try them out, or even blind taste you, challenge your knowledge, or maybe even help you to think outside the box with little known regions, or let's say underrepresented grapes in the area that we're located. And so this started as a way to develop our own education virtually. And so we started including people that was on the ground every week, and we started with Italy, and then we moved to Spain, and that was in, let's say, the larger part where when COVID-19 was rampant in these countries. So the numbers were so large with people passing away, infections surpassing China. We thought, let's send some good energy and solidarity with these countries at that time by also giving a little hope to our friends in those countries by them doing something different, just sitting alone in their house and drinking by themselves. They might as well drink with us. And we've been able to learn from each of them. I even got a nice message in my DM today from one of them, from Hey Nikki, who was on with me from the Italian one. She's like, girl, keep going, keep going. So sending love to her. She's staying strong in Italy, doing her African dance classes, she said virtually. So we'll get into that in a second about what you guys are doing during quarantine as well, besides drinking. But first, Since it's a special edition from co-brand, we all have this is the first time ever, we all have the same exact wines. Normally, people bring wines from whatever's closest to them that represent that region or that country. And so this is the first time we're actually gonna have Argentinian wine as well as wines from Chile. So we're gonna start with, mine's is on ice because it was a little warm. Alta Vista. I'm gonna have the Torrontés. And then we're gonna just have for a second wine, Montes Alpha from Chile. And third, the Bodega Norton. Ooh, too much light. Yeah, it's probably hard to see. But if you're following, you can go straight to the website where you found the link, and I have everything listed there if you want to follow along, or look up the wines if anything piques your interest. All right, so let's get into it, guys.
Mhm.
I pour way more than this.
Look. I'm looking at
I was
CiCi like,
trying to
oh,
cover
I
it.
thought this was a sipping chat.
That is a generous
like-
pour.
I was like, I was trying to put it out of the frame, like, so people don't judge me and see me. But listen, I'm home. Okay, it's my
Go
business.
for it.
Okay,
Go for it. But you know what's so funny on yours? Maybe because you have all that lovely yellow and gold in the background too. Yours actually look darker than mine, and I know we have the same wine, so I think that's the funny part. So let's get into just the grape. Who wants to help me out here? Let's just talk about Torrontés.
Well, I'm sure you guys can. It's a very rich style red, white, in my opinion. You can see the legs on the glass. I really don't see that very often with white wine.
yeah.
So that's another observation. The textural element is kind of making itself really present. I can taste it on the palate, and I can also see it in the glass. But it's very perfumed as well, which is, I think, a note of the variety. Super perfumed.
I'm going to piggyback off of Kelly's response about the legs. If you can take a look at the alcohol, it's at 14%. So that
And
also,
you get that heat.
Yeah.
when it comes to white wines, 14% alcohol is, let's just say, it's definitely high. It's high for a red. So imagine a white. So, and this is without even tasting it yet. We're getting a lot of perfume on the nose. The aromas is floral for sure.
Very.
And then you have a lot of tropical fruit.
Yeah.
Some people hate that. I mean, I don't know. Do you prefer more fruit forward whites when it comes to, I don't know if you taste it already, but when you're smelling it, are you usually like, oh, awesome, pineapples? And are you happy that it smells like a bunch of fruits? Or are you like, nah, I'll pass, that's too fruity. That's like a fruit cup.
For me, it's a little much. And I think it's more floral than fruity. So that is kind of but I think that, I mean, I've tasted it already. And I think like this is a food friendly white wine, especially with more obscure, like immediately I'm thinking Korean barbecue or Indian food with this, because it's got the weight for that. But on the nose, this smells like a candle I would burn. It's so perfumed.
I think it's really interesting. I think it's really distinctive. You don't really get those kind of aromas on a lot of different wines unless you think about maybe like a Riesling or Gewürztraminer.
Gewürz, yeah, it smells like Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And so I think it really stands out, especially being one of the few whites that actually are known to be linked to Argentina. I think it's really kind of interesting. And I think on the nose, it does play off some elements, but I think they kind of fade away when you get it on the palate, but I don't want to get too far ahead.
Yeah, I think that the interesting part too is that if you're new to this grape Torrontés, just know that it always is going to be perfumey, unless someone's doing a style that's unlike this. But if it's a traditional winemaker or winemaker doing a traditional style, it's always going to have, it should be pronounced on aromas and on the palate. I always compare it to Viognier. So I tell people, if you like how Viognier is out the glass, expressive, then you can do well with having the Torrontés. I can actually remember my first time having one. And that will take me back to my time visiting Argentina. Now, CiCi, I know you said you was in Chile, so I don't know if you had, I actually had it in both Chile and in Argentina. Kenecia, did you have it in Argentina? Do you have any white wines when you was there? You know, it's red wine.
I didn't do a lot of white wines in Argentina, only because I ate a lot of steak. And for me, the pairing was just a no-brainer. Even though I don't know,
Right.
I don't really know a lot about wine. I'm kind of still like the MD 2020, you know what I mean, when it comes to wine and all that, because I'm listening to you guys and I'm absorbing all this information and it's so fascinating. But I was strictly red, and I would do maybe a Prosecco in the evening on the rooftop, but with my
Right.
meals and my everyday, my preference, red all the way.
You have any white wine experience down in South America? Because most likely, if it was anything, Torrontés showed up. Even if it wasn't from Argentina, it's just a grape they would replant in other areas. So
It's interesting that you say that, because as soon as I tasted this wine, it brought me back to Chile. And then I'm like, well, they must have sold it somewhere, because I've never smelled or tasted a wine that had so much going on. So as you say that, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense if they were maybe imported a bottle or used the same grapes, but it definitely has transported me back to that time.
it's really developing too. And I think that's when you have wines that are at 14%, they're not really, even though it feels fresh because the acid is high, you can feel it's like a punch in the mouth. The first,
Yes.
it's almost abrasive unless you have food that's being paired with it, like Shakera mentioned, that can help settle out the I'm about to say the tannin, sorry, the acid. Then you have it over controlling everything, and so then you're already like, this is so tart, I don't want to drink anymore. So we'll lose clients to that, because they'll say, nah, no one's going to understand this wine. They're not going to appreciate what the wine is bringing to the table when you are at, let's say, Korean barbecue, because Shakera said. So if you're having something that goes well with it, I would even say ramen. You know, I just love the idea, because I want the loose egg right at the top mixed in with the juice.
Yeah, that richness would, because it's the acidity is, the funny thing is, I think the acidity isn't that bad. I think the alcohol, there's so much heat from the alcohol that for me, like this would be a great white wine for Indian food. Like that's what's in my what's in my head with this. But the aroma of it though, it's literally like flowers.
Yeah.
So when you say Indian food, are you thinking like a lamb vindaloo or a
I
masala?
think like a vindaloo, even a masala, just like the same kind of essence that Shah was saying with like the richness of an egg yolk. It needs like something, because the acid is high and it's just so perfumed. It's killing me.
Like grandma's purse, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
Purse.
All right. You don't want to sit next to.
I agree with the this. Like this wine needs to be balanced, and so it takes me back to like my New Orleans kind of roots. When I think about like shrimp and crab and lobster and crawfish, some of that like really kind of almost like sweet seafood kind of qualities to balance.
Seafood, crawfish for sure. Right?
Yeah, I think like that's what I think about when I think about this wine.
You know,
So
it's funny
crawfish
for those who don't have crawfish, because I know that's another whole topic. And people will be like, my mother like, you never bring those baby lobsters to me, like again, because she's like, that's too much work for such low amount. Like everybody shaking their head, like, no, boo, I don't got the time. Like she like, just bring me a whole lobster. So she gets pissed off when she sees them. But I think that's the difference, is because if you have it, you'll appreciate the sweet from the crawfish versus the lobster. All I want is like butter and oaky shard. Like I don't want this. I want something different. So it's funny you brought that up, because I feel like that's how culture or generations. My mother's like, I don't got time for that. So she don't want to spend no extra work doing that. Anything else from this? I mean, what kind of fruits we getting? I said tropical fruit. I got pineapple. I also, of course, we got the floral, but on the note, on my palate, I'm getting this underripe pineapple. It's almost like it ain't juicy yet, you know. Like you cut the pineapple too early, like damn, you know. Like you can't send it back.
I know, I always do that. I think mango as well, a little bit, and apricot.
Yeah,
I'm getting a lot of citrus, like a lot of
Yeah.
lemon peel, lemon zest.
yeah, I got the citrus, I got the lime. I got some ginger on the finish. It's really kind of spicy on the finish. So like
Yeah, I was gonna
ginger.
say ginger. I'm getting like this ginger note on the end.
That's good, yeah. And I mean, this is so along the line. It really is so similar to Gewürztraminer and Viognier as a style of wine, which, you know, for being honest, it's probably one of the more least popular or people least awareness of this type of style of wine when it comes to white. To kind of those three wines are those two varietals overall are typically backburnered, and I think people need to have a better understanding of how application of those particular wines, because they're just easy to just talk about, oh, I don't drink those, or you know, and people just write them off. And it's just also interesting that they're all grown in different parts of the world, but they're so similar. I'm like, would be curious to know like the, you know, the DNA of the varieties themselves to see if there's any actual connection between the three, because it's super.
How about my pen and pad here?
Torrontés is Muscat, isn't it?
Yes,
Is that a part of
That's
the
what I was about to
family?
say. Moscato is like a
Moscato.
distant cousin to
Yeah.
Muscat
Yeah.
D. Alexandria.
Alexander from Greece.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Muscat family, and then also a grape called Criollo Chica. It's a
Hey, Chica. Hola, Chica.
Criollo Chica and Muscat Alexander is like the descent of the parents, I guess, if you can say. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was gonna mention, I don't know if anyone's getting CiCi, did you taste any salt, like saline character on it? Like, is it
Yes,
salty when you drink
it's
it?
very salty. At first I thought it was creamy, but I was like, no, is it cream? And then it has a little bite at the end. So when you said ginger, I'm like, okay, maybe that's what it is, but it is. The more I drink it, the more it feels like, you know, like you go swimming at the beach. I'm from Miami, so everything is compared to the beach. And you're eating something and you're like, is that meat? Is that the food? That's what it feels like.
And I think that the aftertaste, if I just had salt water, I actually feel on my tongue. And so I just wanted to play, or at least use that to help understand the grape. So Torrontés is actually from Argentina, and it's in the northern part of Argentina, an area called Salta. So when I go back, I have not visited, but I would love to go there. But I don't know if either one of you also been to Bolivia. The salt flats from Bolivia is very popular for travel. I'm sure everyone seen pictures of this. Pure white, like endless white salt flats. And a lot of people playing with dimension and perspective when you see their pictures in Bolivia, in this area. And so the fact that it's so far north and is right on the Bolivian border is making me think about the terroir from this area. So Salta is also, besides the fact that it says Salta in the name, I guess can also trigger salt immediately, but is one of the highest regions or subregions in the world for planting. They have the high, I think it's like 3,000 the elevation above sea level, something crazy like this. And so this high, the acid that I get, I guess the alcohol, I don't know if it's helping or hurting, but at this point, if we didn't have the alcohol, then who knows? This wine would probably feel like a razor is going through our mouth.
Yeah.
Because the acid probably has the ability to cut anything, cut your cheek, probably bleed, you know, if it was too acidic. But maybe the alcohol is helping us think about the wine in a different way. How can we pair it with food? And it actually is making it a little bit more balanced. I don't know if y'all agree, but I'm taking that into perspective as I think about the terroir and we're tasting this wine. Is like, well, Shakera got a point, but what if we didn't have the alcohol? Or what if it wasn't floral? It probably would just like, it would be too flabby and it would be too extreme due to the elevation. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this is like, this is a really fresh style. I think the vintage is 2018, but like, I think before the 2000s, they were making it more like an oxidized style. So it was like very like, almost like if you have a Heredia Lopez white Rioja, it was almost like that. So very, very different styles. So I haven't tasted that style.
I've never had that style before.
Yeah,
and I love white Rioja. So that's why I'm like, I didn't know that they made that style with the Torrontés.
Yeah, so I guess it would be more nutty and more like the acid would be a little more probably prominent, I guess, too.
Will be helpful for the aging too.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
That's the style I'm used to having of this. So this was really different for me than what I'm used to having.
Kelly, I'm sure you've had this style. This is like
Yeah, this is
go-to
the
one.
only style that I know. So I haven't had the more oxidative style.
All right.
I think I would like as well because I just love oxidative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this ironically, like I think that the components in this are necessary, but this wine for me is a little out of balance because the alcohol is crazy and very, very, very prominent. And I think that's throwing me, and it's such a stark contrast to the nose that it's not balancing for me without food. I think they would be very different if I had it with something that I was eating, but just by itself, it's one extreme and then the other.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pour some. I'm gonna come back to it because I'm gonna invite Shakera to do the same to see
Okay.
if she feels differently after, you know.
It is evolving in the glass too and becoming.
I think that is doing
All right,
some
It
things.
is.
So I'm gonna.
It's changing. I thought I was the only one. I feel like it's every time I let it
Yeah.
sit, and it's, I guess the fancy word is evolving, darling.
Yes,
It's
girlfriend. Yes, use it. Evolving in the glass.
Yes, honey.
I mean, but this is a big white wine, and just like all richer style wines in general, even reds, they need, they do ask you to be eating, food with them. So
Yeah.
I think this is a great example. Also, this speaks to, and I think we can talk overall about just the value that's accessible in wine in some of the regions that we're exploring today. The wine quality can be pretty high, but you're getting still a great price point. So that's a nice thing too about Argentinian wines and Chilean wines as well. It's just like the great value that's offered by those regions for the quality.
For sure.
We'll definitely talk about that. So now we're moving on to our first red, which is what folks are known for. When it comes to South American food, you cannot go without steak, beef. And for those of you who may or may not know, I do not eat red meat. And I will repost on my Instagram my steak in Mendoza. It's a whole moment, but I cherish that photo just to show people, like, if you're gonna have a steak, this is where you have it. And so that was pretty cool for me to share. I couldn't even finish it, but you'll see the picture. I'll repost it afterwards.
Sorry,
All right,
we're doing the cab next. Sorry, are we doing the?
Yeah, we're gonna do the cab.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
No worries. Whew. Mama. Somebody's, man, what's so crazy? And I feel bad for CiCi. But CiCi, would you continue drinking the white because I need.
Oh, don't worry. That's why I poured a big glass for myself, child.
You know why? It's because we're gonna need you to come back and, like, you gotta defend the challenger here. Is she right? Do we have too much alcohol? You like, girl, I done drink it for an hour. I'm telling you.
By the time y'all
just
come back to
enough.
me, the bottle gonna be gone, child.
You're gonna be like, it's just enough. Don't worry. Crazy. This one is, and it's funny because I've been drinking. Who is it? I've been drinking a Bordeaux from Pouliac this week. So in this case, and it's a 2009. And so to have, I haven't even drank this wine, and I'm already talking about it. 2017 Chilean Colchagua. I hate saying it together. I always sound crazy. Colchagua Valley. And it's funny because I always look to people who speak Spanish and they like, girl, that is Native American. I can't say that.
I
They
can't
look at
say,
me
I was like, I speak Spanish. And I
like
don't know.
Colchagua? Yeah, so Colchagua Valley, period, is just due south of the area that I stayed in and where I visited. So Santiago de Chile is the capital of Chile. And one of my favorite regions is the white region of Casa Blanca. And that's where I did kind of like pre-harvest work because they weren't ready yet when I was there. I was a little bit too early for harvest, but I spent 2 months there. And so my time there was spent between me visiting Mendoza, which we'll have next for Reds, but also me working with the vineyard there. So it wasn't this one, so that's why we're not saying their names, but it was an amazing time. And I was able to explore Chile basically for the reason that Kelly mentioned earlier. I knew that it existed. This is not during the time when I was studying for any WSET or anything like that. I had no desire at that time to actually enter the wine industry. I was just doing it as a passion project and also to expand my own knowledge. But as you hear now that I'm here with you today, it now became a profession. So it's good to be able to use these stories as reference points when I was there learning about terroir, because I was doing the work and the studying way early on. And so I can tell you right now from my own experience, it smells like this glass when you're there. And so this smells like the earth when you're in the area. So
The earth.
the earth, literally the earth. I don't even know how to say it because it's not even in the vineyards. It's like just driving down the road will smell like this in Chile in that area, which is further, I would say is mid, right? Santiago de Chile is like middle of the country. So there's the much hotter area that's due north, that's just bordering Peru. I think I'm right on that. And then going south, Kelly, don't ask me no questions. And just below is going all the way down to, I don't know, Antarctica. So at this point, this is one of the skinniest, thinnest countries. You have Pacific Ocean on the west side, and then you have the Andes Mountains that's bordering it, and it's very thin. So I always get excited to talk about Chile because the terroir is like none other. I don't know any place where, I don't know if you guys who visited felt the same thing. As soon as you got off the plane, I felt like I needed a gas mask. Like, not a gas mask, but like if I was an astronaut walking like the elevation was just so high, the mountains. I'm not from a mountainous place, so I guess it was very weird to kind of be somewhere like, oh, I can't breathe. What's happening right now?
Yeah.
And I've only been skiing once in Colorado when I went to Aspen. And so I know what it feels like to be there. And I feel like this was exactly that same feeling. I don't know. Did you feel that too?
Yeah, I mean, I felt the exact same way, which was really interesting because as a wellness traveler, I'm always kind of like trying to watch out for my health and things, but I also want to have a good time. And there's wine everywhere in Santiago. Like people that you meet will say, hey, let's go have a bottle of wine. You know, oh, you're from America, let's go have a bottle of wine. And that's just like the, you know, the basis of the conversation. And so I did feel that the air was a little thick. But I just sat down and had the wine anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the experience. And what I felt was that the people were really so charming, and the scene of looking at the Andes Mountains, I could see them from my actual hotel that I stayed in. So for me, the wine was more of an experience versus like, because again, I don't know all of the notes, you know what I mean? And I pretty much will drink almost anything. Like, I'm not the type of person that'll be like, oh no, that, you know, that's from 1902. Like, no, I wouldn't even know. So when it's offered to me, I do partake in it. And it was just part of the atmosphere and the experience of being with Chile and how you connect with the people, because they really pick up wine at the corner store, like they can pick it up from anywhere and offer it to you. And it's just part of their hospitality. You know, it's just so common. And I feel like they started drinking wine at 12. I mean, I don't know. It just is what I think.
Like us.
Listen, I completely agree with that, because I don't know if when you were in Chile, they did the Coke and red wine mixture.
Yep.
And I was like,
but that's a Spanish. That's a Spanish thing from Spain.
Was lit.
So.
But on the walking tour, we were on a walking tour at 10 a.m. and he's like, wait, before we go, come. We have the wine and the Coke. I was like, well, shit.
Wait, is he from Chile or from Ghana? That accent.
Listen, it's a little bit of everything. That's my accent.
Wait.
Everything. So I completely agree. It is a part of the culture. It was a good time. Being lit.
I was about to ask a question. Let's see if you two really remember. What's the name of, this drink was bad. So it is soda involved. It looked like a mess. And it is alcohol in it. That's where you get but it has a crazy name. I don't want to give you any hints.
I don't remember.
Supposedly it's so strong you can fall. That's how I got the name.
Oh no, I don't remember, but I was
Me
offered.
either.
I don't remember it, but I was offered. I did not drink that because again, I'm solo traveling. You know what I mean? Like, I can have a nice bottle of wine and like conduct myself, but if I'm experimenting and I'm solo traveling, you know, in Chile, I got a lot of stairs. You know, it was very comparable to my time in like Japan, but I got a lot of stairs, and I mean, they're neutral stairs because I'm not sure if they were happy to see me or otherwise. And so I was just more mindful. So that particular drink that was offered to me by a Senegalese man who was living there.
Wait a minute, that may be the same Senegalese man I saw. Wait a minute.
That part says he on a mission. He ain't get me.
I think he's looking for us.
Listen.
No, I'm serious.
I didn't fall.
I was about to say, I did see one Senegalese guy. He kept like, you know what? It's the same guy now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I didn't fall for that one.
All right, I'm gonna tell you the name of the drink. I didn't even look this one up. This is how you know when things is like stamped in your memory. It's called, and for those of you who speak Spanish, terremoto.
Oh, it was terremoto.
Oh,
Terremoto.
terremoto. Those of you who don't know what that means in English, it means earthquake. So
I think, you know what? I had those. So this is what happened. But it was the same walking tour. So what had happened, we started the walking tour in this like old building. He started with the red wine and the soda. We did the whole walking tour. And then obviously because I'm joking and laughing, he's like, let's go to the bar. And I'm like, of course. That's what we drank.
And then what happened?
And then right,
What
like now the
was-
story's developing a little bit more, right? Kira's like, what's going on?
It was a good time. It was a good
So I
time.
need to look up because I just remembered it as I was thinking about what we were talking about today. I was like, oh shoot, the terremotos. Those guys was killer. They said that once you have one, you're going to be shaking when you walk. So that's why they call it the earthquake.
Oh,
And
Did
so
you have
I
one,
have no
Charles?
idea what the
Question.
recipes are, but I'm sure someone has them online.
I'm gonna look that up.
We will share them for your quarantine hour. So let's get into this wine. Charles, pick it up. Let me know what you're smelling since it's so pronounced, intense, and fragrant, I'm sure.
Yeah, so what I get off the bat is a nice amount of vanilla notes, in addition to some darker red fruits like black cherry and plum, things like that. Maybe a little blueberry too.
Okay.
Yeah,
So black and blue fruits or red as well?
more like black and blue. I get, but it doesn't like on the nose, not like a fruit bomb, but I get like those nice concentrated dark notes, dark red fruit notes. Yeah.
Kira, what you smelling?
Same. I'm getting not as much of the black fruit, but a lot of red and blue fruit. Definitely with Charles, that spice and oak is there. I'm still also getting a floral component here, but it's beautiful actually, like dried rose petals that I
You may be
love,
flower
like potpourri.
sensitive.
I don't. Funny enough,
Don't send Kira flowers. Anybody that's watching, don't send her no flowers.
I have really, really, really bad allergies, but I love flowers. So I do love.
She's like, I smell flowers and everything. That's it.
But in this, I think it's pleasurable because I feel like it's dried rose petals that add a nice, like, earthy balance to the fruit that I love. This smells beautiful.
Okay, Kelly, they still didn't say the one thing that I first smelled as soon as I smelled my glass. So I'm trying to see if you can pick up.
I don't know. I mean, strawberries, vanilla, chocolate.
Meat. Is nobody else smelling like, I'm getting like this crazy.
It has a gamey note to it. I think that's more like the terroir too. And I think what's nice here is there's a great, the terroir elements are so pronounced. The earthy elements are strong flavors that I think mesh really well with the fruit notes that are more, classic or traditional. Even a wine that doesn't have a significant presence of terroir will have the fruit and some of the spice notes, but I think the terroir combination, like that's adding that like dried tea leaves element, that earth, and some of the notes that Shakera and Charles were mentioning too. So I think it's quite nice if you like those types of bigger wines. But I still, it's pretty elegant for style. I mean,
it is very elegant. It is. And so this reminds me of how you guys need to give me tips. So when I'm on a date, I can sound really fancy and elevated, and I can so first, right, you get the pour.
Wait, and then stop. And so first, right.
Yeah, so then we swirl it, right, to get the aroma going. And then we kind of put do we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we want you to smell it. Yes.
Okay, so then what are the things I should find? Like the notes, what else?
All right, so the first thing you did that you didn't do just now was sight. So we look at the color. So we didn't do it so much on this one, but on the white one, we did talk about the color, okay?
Okay,
So in this case, you want to look at the color. All right. It's normally a bunch of people who are all in the wine industry. So I usually don't go through this. So I forget.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're going to
Give me the
backtrack.
tea.
But I need the tea. So you definitely want to look at the color. Okay.
Okay.
So that's before swirling any of this action. You want to check for oxidation, faults, anything that's evident in the wine before you even smell or taste it, because you may approach a bad wine, right? So why drink bad wine?
If it
So
smells like wet dog, it's bad. Send it back.
Oh,
there's a
dear.
lot of things. We got an alcohol. You can
Oh.
not alcohol, but nail polish remover alcohol. I'm talking
Yeah,
dear.
wet cardboard.
Exactly.
cardboard. I
Yeah,
like
a
telling
fault-
people it
I'm
smells
sorry.
like.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
nervous.
bad. If a wine is faulted, it's very, very distinct.
You'll know.
You'll know.
Okay. So
Sometimes I've smelt it, and then I had to defend the fact that I was a professional,
Mm.
and then for people to like give me a new bottle, and so that
Really?
we'll talk about as well. And I'm like, I don't
That
need
means your
anybody
nose
else.
is better than them, because if you know
Like,
what that smells like, it's very distinct. You almost can't miss it. It's horrible.
this one was pretty faint, but he thought that he can still sell it. That's the whole point. It was like, but it's. I'm like, yeah, but I know what it is, and I don't want it. Like, it is no, like, I just want something else. And it's crazy. Of course, he just opened the bottle and put it right back, and now he starts selling it by the glass.
Yeah.
And that's because we, the people, we, the community, do not know the difference. And so it's easier. It also happened at a wine shop I worked at, not the one, my beloved one that I started at, but other ones that I worked at, where they go, oh, we'll just use this one for samples. And then they just poured it as samples in the beginning. It's false. I'm telling you it's false. And then you tell me that you're just going to pour it for people. And people go, oh, I love it. They just literally watching Black folks walk in and talk about how much they love this faulty wine. I'm like, you're making
that's a part of like things like when you start talking about the culture, like people, especially newer drinkers, are afraid to say, I just don't like it. Like there's something about it that I don't like. And there's no right. If you don't like a wine, you just don't like it. Now you might not be able to tell that it's flawed, but if you don't like it, there should be no shame in going, this one isn't for me. I'll try something else.
I'm so glad you said that, because I would have never, I've tasted a lot of wines that I didn't like, but I feel bad because they've already opened the bottle. So I'm like, oh, well, it's okay. I'll drink it. So thank you for that. Because I didn't even know you could really.
Yeah.
If it's a fault wine, I'm calling it out. And guess what? When you work in this industry, there's no FBI badge to say, hey, I know the wine. So I have to go around like, okay, what else you want to do? How about open another bottle and I can taste that one and I can tell you if it's a fault or if it's the winemaker. And we can do that here together, since you have to bring your manager and your manager's manager over here. But that usually doesn't happen for people who look other than me. And so therefore, I understand the game that's happening. That particular incident happened in London, actually. So it happens everywhere. So just the reason why I'm taking this much time is because if you're identifying the fault just from sight, these are things you can show him off the cuff. Like, nah, I already know that's not supposed to, this is only a 2-year-old wine. Why is it already like brown? Yeah. It's only 2 years old. It's not aged. Why is this happening? And if they got some answer for you, you can smell it and taste it and see what happened. But the next step would be to do the swirling so that you can be able to open up the aromas. We can smell it together. And then that's what we're doing right now, calling out the aromas that we get. Without getting too deep into that, there are going to be different descriptors that are in fruity and floral, minerality, earthy, even chemical notes if you're talking about Riesling or biological. And then we'll move forward into tasting. And then that's what we're going to do now together. Tell me what you taste.
Y'all, this is so good.
Don't
Again,
rub it
everyone who's
in.
watching, whether you're watching on replay or watching it live, this is the Cabernet Sauvignon.
This is my kind of carrying on in a glass.
Okay.
This is delicious to me.
Y'all
like
just rubbing
this.
it in.
Yeah, I do like this a lot. I've been sipping too, but I do like it. And it feels to me, you guys can tell me, I feel like it's dry, but I'm okay with it.
Yes,
okay, like it's cool.
Yeah.
What style do you normally drink?
Girl, with the style that's open.
That's a good place to start. That's a great place to start.
That part.
I just want to make a distinction because you brought up a good point about dryness. So when we talk about red wines, we're talking about the tannins, which dries your mouth out. You may feel like dehydrated a little bit. But then the dry wine in general just means the absence of sugar. So it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, so it's not like super sweet. But it also has a drying effect that dries your mouth out. So two different things that people
Yeah.
are.
That's the style versus the tannins.
Yeah.
This is my kind of carrying on.
Yeah.
This is delicious to me.
And you guys, right now I'm wearing a lipstick called Wine Down. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And if I know I'm going to be drinking wine, I go with more of a Bordeaux lip, because if you know, Kelly, I know you know, sometimes it can leave a line,
Doing that on mine,
Yep.
yeah.
right? And it's like a burgundy line, and you just look kind of like crusty, right? So I always kind of like match my lip with my wine.
That's great.
Shay, I see you. I see you. Mhm.
Yeah, all of you have great
I
lips.
use chapstick.
I'm like, funny enough, for tasting, if I'm gonna be tasting a lot, I normally don't wear lipstick because of that. But that's very rare, because I'll just wear long wear lipstick because I don't like not wearing lipstick. Y'all just caught me half getting dressed. Sorry. Quarter dusty this morning.
So let's talk about, are we confirming the same aromas on our palate? We just talked about tannins. How's the acid? For those of you watching, it's a 14.5 ABV, so alcohol by volume.
I get on the palate, I definitely get those like black currant notes. So like if anybody drinks cassis, I get those kind of like really dark black currant notes. Not a lot of oak, some moderate tannins for sure. I think the acid is moderate plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, I mean, like to everybody's point, like Shakera and Kelly is very elegant. I think it's very elegant. Yeah.
Agreed. And may I add too, because I'm a beauty person, that I wear a lot of fragrances with blackcurrant and cassis in them, like love them and live for them. So this is like a really beautiful pairing for me in my beauty world.
Oh, nice.
Yes, with a beauty pairing. Come on.
Yes.
That's a whole series in and of itself.
That's right.
exactly.
You done sparked some interest now.
I
Like,
want to
come
know
on
more
now.
about that part.
We should do that.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Listen,
The,
perfumes, face masks,
all of the
outfits.
things.
Let's get it.
Did she say outfits?
Yes.
You will get this.
I'm gonna
run of
pair this
fashion.
outfit with
You gotta
my
do the
Bordeaux.
outfit.
Yeah.
Like you did. You like, I got a white wine. We're gonna do this gold look.
Listen,
it.
I
Let's
mean,
do
with
it.
the earring matching the lip, you gotta bring it together. Come on.
Yes.
Yes. Coordinate.
My
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
carrying on.
Mhm.
So when people, let's just talk about Cabernet Sauvignon for a second. So Bordeaux blend. Cab is from Bordeaux, France. Its highest percentage would be on the left bank. So I had to break this down because I never know where people are when they say they're beginners or they're avid drinkers, but it's like making sure people understand some regions have formulas, and Bordeaux is one of them. So the Cabernet is heavy there, but it also has a blend of Merlot, Cab Franc, and other supporting grapes. But those three are normally the top that's going to be in a Bordeaux blend. So it's usually interesting when I have people come to me in a wine shop, tell me they hate Merlot, but they love Bordeaux. I'm like, all right, that's kind of strong. Let me help
That's
you
kind
out.
of strong
Maybe
and
you
wrong.
don't know that probably 40% of that wine you love is Merlot.
Merlot.
Strong and
It
wrong
just-
with that one.
Yeah, maybe you don't know. I'm trying to hook a sister up. So let me let you know, this is what really a Bordeaux blend is. Now that saying, even though it's not from Bordeaux, France, they would say Bordeaux blend because that's where it's from, the blend is from, that they would do the same thing, even in a Chile, even in US, in California, and they will say Bordeaux blend, just so everyone knows contextually it's always the same, 3 grapes, Syrah, et cetera, other supporting grapes too, Malbec, but just know that they don't always have to tell you on a bottle when it comes to South American or even US wines, because unless it's Oregon, the percentage is 90%. So if it says like this, our bottles have Cabernet Sauvignon, in Oregon is the only state that has the highest law for, it has to be that one grape if it's listed 90%. So it has to be that max. For the other states, I feel like it's 85 or 75.
85.
And I think that South America mimics Australia, and I believe theirs may be at even 75, if I'm not mistaken. So in that case, is this all Cabernet? Like, that could do a little bit more research, but I think that there is a lot of this that is interesting to me. And I bring that up to also, I'm sure, Kenecia, you've had a Cabernet Sauvignon from California. I want to know if you feel like this feels reminiscent of that style, or even one that you may have had from France.
No,
The same thing for
absolutely.
everyone else. Is this tasting?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very familiar taste and a very familiar feeling, because I don't know about you, but I feel like my chin is sweating over here. I don't know if that's part of like why. But you know, it warms me up is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's the after effect, but definitely I feel like I am in California with my girls, and we picked up a couple of bottles, and this is very familiar in the palate.
Yes, so I actually work, one of my day job is I work for wine.com based in San Francisco. So we actually sell all these wines. Shout out to wine.com and co-brand. And I'm not gonna give it away, but this has a little bit of Merlot in it. I won't say the percentage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boom. I don't want to give it away. But no, I just think that it's good for people to know, because they walk away and go, oh my God, I hate Merlot, but I love Cab. Even now, I'm getting more of a coffee bean on the finish. And I feel like once you let evolution happen, right? You will get more air exposure, and it's opening up some more, right? And I feel like when you start, that's when you're able to taste maybe the secondary grape. So, because you gave it more time to introduce itself, you know, to the wine. And so I just wanted to point that out, because I were picking up other items. Is there anything else somebody want to say about this wine before we move on to?
Is there any Cab Franc in it?
No. Not that I saw.
So this wine is accessible on wine.com.
Yes.
All right. Here we go.
In select states. We ship to 42 states, and inventory based on state.
Okay.
Come on,
So
Flex.
much better than Napa Cab to me.
Come on. Nah, but this was awesome. I think of it being way more savory, which would be more of a Bordeaux style, so French style for me, versus having one that's from Napa Valley that tends to be more fruit forward, or even riper fruit forward versus aged fruit, you know. And
Girl,
so
you know what you're talking about.
You call it shots.
She a professional, okay?
good job.
Savory. That's why I asked about Cab Franc, because there's sort of an earthy greenness to it that I like. I don't love Napa Cab because of the excessive fruity and oakiness of it.
Jamminess.
I mean, and it's also way overpriced when you can enjoy something like this that I think is delicious and a much better expression of Cabernet Sauvignon. So,
all right, Charles, I'm gonna put you on the spot while we move on to the next one, because I want you to tell us the price of this wine on wine.com. Now that I know it's on there.
It is $22.
22?
Yes.
That's actually interesting, because if on wine.com is 22, then how much is it probably you think on the shelf, Kelly? Like if you go into a wine shop, how much you think it is?
I would say it's probably a little bit more. Maybe if you don't.
Yeah, I'm sure that these probably like 28.
25 to 28.
Yeah.
But this
and it's
is
crazy.
so much better than anything you can find from California.
From California, I mean,
True.
It's amazing.
This is when the value proposition of these regions really, really makes itself clear. Yeah. $20 Cabernet from California is generally not that exciting. This is so complex and interesting for that price. It's a good wine.
And I think that is also, let's also make sure we mention that probably most people will walk right past Chile as a wine section in the store. And if they see one for 22 or 28, 25, they're probably like, no, why that one's so expensive? Because shouldn't it be next? Because most of them you're going to see on the shelf is probably 10.
Right.
So unfortunately, these wines in this region in South America, whether it's Chilean, now I had my first Brazilian wine. We'll talk about that. Thanks to the Portuguese Brazilian connection, I was able to have some Brazilian wines while living in Portugal. But let's say I've been to Brazil 3 times and I didn't have a Brazilian wine. So let's give you a mindset of how you had to leave the country.
That's because you were having those caipirinhas, okay?
I didn't even know Brazil made wine.
I love them too, by the way. I'd be like, you don't know this? This is Brazilian mojitos. I just put you on.
It'll change your life.
It will change your life.
Can you, for the ladies that have been to both Chile and Argentina, I think for a lot of South America, people really don't understand the climate and the terroir of it. Like they actually think that the vast majority of South America is tropical, and it's not at all. And I think that that's so reflective in these wines. Like, I think that if you ask the average person what they think Cabernet from Chile would be, they're going to think it's even more fruit forward than Napa, because they're thinking it's even hotter.
Always
It's
gonna
close
be
to
hot,
the equator and all of that. And this is such a great display of, like, one, what the terroir is. This is obviously a cooler climate Cabernet, because you're getting a lot of the secondary and tertiary notes from it more. It's not just a fruit bomb. And so I think that, you know, showcasing these wines, you know, I feel the same way about Spain. Bringing these wines and attention to these wines, I think you can encourage more drinkers, because you can try something, and even if you don't like it, I mean, you've spent $25 versus $60 for a wine that you don't like.
Yeah.
Mm.
We can talk in order. I've never been to Colombia, and I believe CiCi has been there. So just when you look at South America as a continent, that is probably when they think about heat, they're talking about Colombia. So CiCi, if you want to just describe your time.
Yeah. So I used to live in Colombia for over a year. And the thing about Colombia, I say it encapsulates everything that South America is, because you have beaches, you have mountains, you have cool climates, you have very hot climates. Because if you think Bogota is New York vibe, but the climate of like a Seattle, you know, it's like, you know, it's like rainy, kind of cold. Whereas I lived in Cali, which is like Miami. It's hot. It feels a little bit like New Orleans-esque in terms of culture, but the heat is, our average days were 90 all year round. How close is
that to Cartagena?
So it's like via plane, maybe 2 hours, but Cali is midland. It's not even on the coast. So even if you think Buenaventura, which is on the other coast, and Cartagena is on a coast as well, even the climates of those coasts are vastly different because of the bodies of water in which they touch. So
let's talk about that.
To your point, South America, people think it's similar to folks who are not born or lived in the US. When folks think the US, everyone thinks New York, right? They don't necessarily understand that you have a New Orleans, you have a Seattle, you have a California, you have a Missouri, you know, you have all of these different climates.
That's Miami, yeah.
Exactly. There's so much to offer, and also so much landscape, you know, like the scenery. And Colombia was an interesting place for me, where in South America, it has the tallest palm trees. It has it produces the most coffee. It has rainforest, and there's places that it gets extremely cold. So thinking about Chile and Argentina, and even Bolivia, to your point, they're dramatically different than even like a Guyana. Guyana is like the Caribbean. And then you have Chile, which is like, I don't know, brisk weather is the only way that I can describe it. So
yeah, it's like living in Colorado.
Exactly.
Like being in Chile.
Exactly. People are like, oh, don't you live in New York? And you're like, no, I'm from Boulder, bro. Like we ski, you know what I mean? So,
and then you have like Uruguay that has like these Mediterranean climates and all of that stuff. So I think that, like, you know, it's so great to see the melding of travel and wine and all these things, because if you like Italian wine, you really ought to try a lot of Uruguayan wines, because the cuisine is similar to Italy. The terroir and terrain is similar to Italy. You will enjoy those wines.
That's a fair point. I think a lot of, so as someone from Miami, living in Cali and then going to different places in Colombia, there was so much similarity in food in terms of Caribbean culture. So whether it be using coconut for everything or plantains for everything in a mama, you know, put mint in everything. So I understand the comparison as you're thinking about food. That's fair.
So when I went to Brazil, which was my first trip to South America, I went straight to Rio. And then my next few trips were to actually explore, because the country is large. So I was in the north, which is Salvador de Bahia, which is basically the Caribbean when you look at it.
Yes.
What it feels like, the culture, compared to also going down to Sao Paulo. And then Sao Paulo is completely
Sao
Paulo is very much New York City.
Yes.
That actually, I wouldn't even say New York City. If you've been to Mexico City, It's more like Mexico City,
That's
than New
true.
York. But the city is large and it's just buildings everywhere. And I think people think of that same idea with New York, but I'm like, no, we have a very small area of New York City that's like that. All other boroughs don't have these tall skyscrapers. When you on a plane landing in Sao Paulo or Mexico City, you're like, where are we landing? Like, I don't see a clear space nowhere. It actually disturbs you a bit to actually like land in the middle of this. But yeah, Brazil was my first exposure to South America, and of course with the Capianos too. But I think that learning from those 3 different cities, I was able to see how when the equator flips, you know, the reverse of it. So being in the north, which would be the opposite of us, how hot, how Caribbean the feeling was, how beach life was part of their everyday life, and then just really, and then even us, melanated folks, right?
Oh, yes.
Listen.
It's kind of weird because that's the opposite when you think about the States where it's the flip and everybody's down in the South. And so you connect with the music, you connect with the people, I'm sure very much to CiCi's Colombian experience as well. And then Rio, because it's popular, was basically the Miami.
Yeah.
And then Sao Paulo was the vast difference. I mean, not that you didn't see people of color or that they didn't go to the beach, but it was actually cold. And in winter, I went to Rio, I flew into Rio and then flew to Sao Paulo. So to be in Rio first, and then actually, it was like a whole another world during that trip. And so you got I had my leather jacket on. There was nothing beach related to that idea of Brazil that we all understand. Okay. So it was kind of crazy to be somewhere where I'm like, okay, we're doing city stuff. So we're going to museums, we're checking out the latest place to lounge at. It was the opposite. We're going to more wine bars compared to being in Rio. Every day I was at the beach. Literally. They was like, it's dangerous. I'm like, nah, I don't care. I'm gonna wake up top of the morning, go straight to the beach, tuck your gold in.
Tuck your gold in, period. Tuck it in. I didn't actually visit Sao Paulo for that reason because, you know, I was traveling at this point for a little bit over a year. And I just said, you know, I don't want to deal with the city feel, you know, I'll visit it some other time. But I spent a bulk of my time in Bahia, which was absolutely like, those are my cousins, period.
Listen,
you know, and
Auntie got married there.
Yeah, listen.
Listen.
But see, Sao Paulo for me, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. It felt very stale in terms of culture and being. I said like between that and Rio, I felt like a lot of people were in the sunken place. Whereas Bahia, people knew who they were. And it being someone from Miami, I could see a lot of myself in Rio because of the way the folks that interacted. But it was interesting, particularly in our melanin folks, how they identified the type of food that they ate and how they showed up in comparison to Bahia. But Sao Paulo, sis, you ain't missed nothing for me. It was.
I agree. I bet.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this Argentinian wine, and then we'll talk about being in Argentina.
Mind if I interject just real quick before we move over to Argentina? So I haven't been to Chile or Argentina. The closest I got to Brazil was being married to a Brazilian for a while. But
that counts.
That's a whole nother story. But I wanted to piggyback on what Shakera and Chaz said about the terroir, the environment. So like a lot of times we think about this really skinny country, they think about north to south, but also it's east to west, you know, by the Pacific Ocean that goes this way, and then the Andes on the other side. And then the climate from the reverse, like Chaz said, the Southern Hemisphere is it gets hotter in the north and colder in the south. All the different things, microclimates that really kind of stand out. So when it comes to wine, it comes to traveling, people tend to put things in boxes and blanket statements, but it's so varied, and I think this conversation is very important so people can actually peel back the onion and see the different variances and the levels of these locations and these regions and these wines too.
Yeah, I mean, you're further from the equator, right? That's why Montana's colder than Miami, because it's farther from the equator. Same thing, if you're going south, it's the same thing. The farther away you get, it's not as warm anymore. But I think that South America as a continent gets boxed into like Rio, right?
Rio, so much more.
and that's it. And it hinders people, I think, particularly in wine, from exploring. I'm like, but you can read that bottle, right? Why would you focus on France where there's never going to be anything about the grape on the bottle, right? You really have to know stuff to get into those wines, when you could explore something that you can read, that you can look on a map quite easily and understand. So I just hope that conversations like this, Cha, what you're doing to just, bring Portuguese wine and culture and food to the forefront, is a region, I think, especially if you're just exploring all of these regions, these are exploratory regions. You don't have to break the bank to explore them, and you still get true expressions of these grapes at an affordable price.
Love that.
I think that, the same way I struggled. I was literally going to decide to go spend 2 months in South Africa or to Chile. And it was weird. People were like, what, South Africa or Chile? This should be a no-brainer. And at that time, I haven't been to South Africa yet. And I really was you should have seen me struggling. I really didn't know what to say, because I really was like, I don't know why, but something's telling me to go to Chile. And I'm more confident at my age. Let's just leave it at
that.
To say that I can stand more proudly or boldly in myself to say, I know I'm the hunter. I'm that kind of person. I'm not that South Africa doesn't need any help. Yes, they do with their wines, but I think people know South African wine. They respect it. People are Shiraz, and but for some reason, that's why I didn't spend 2 months even in Argentina. I specifically went to Chile. At that time, I realized no one was talking to me about Chilean wine, the same way no one was talking to me about Portuguese wine. And I'm just that explorer, that adventurer who love doing that kind of stuff. So once you know yourself, you are okay to make those kind of decisions. Like I'm talking about, I'm amongst a lot of travelers. And at that time, I don't think Kenecia went yet, or CiCi. I think CiCi, that's how I knew she went, is because she hit me up like, "Child, you was in Chile. Let me know what I'm supposed to do, what's supposed to happen." Because all the people I knew in the travel industry, this was like untapped land. So
literally.
So on the wine side, I knew I was on my own because I didn't have any wine connections then. But on the traveling side, I didn't have anybody telling me where to go, where should I stay. And so it was crazy. I just was like, you know what? I'm feeling drawn to it. Let me just go. And so I spent 2 months there. And so you just got to know yourself, because you don't feel like, but everybody's telling me, South Africa's lit. You need to go to South Africa. And I was just like, but something keep telling me to go to Chile. No, I don't speak Spanish. And even the Chilean Spanish ain't Spanish.
It's not the same.
Let
me tell you.
I speak Spanich, and South Americans, I'd be like, "Get?" Because
I speak Spanish too. And moving to Colombia, I was like, "Como say what?" Yeah,
that's not.
It's different.
So I just know that the inner work that I had to do with myself led me on this journey to be able to talk about Portuguese wine at that level and have that true connection, because that's what I'm passionate about. So
that's so dope.
And the same thing for South American wine. So, and exploring both of those countries truly as a traveler. So I snuck out, this is a good segue into this Argentinian wine, is because I was like, oh, you know what, since I'm in Chile, let me just hop on over to Argentina real quick. Yeah. I had no plans to go, but I said, I'm right here. I put it on Facebook. Facebook was the thing then, Instagram was out. So I went right on Facebook, told people like, yeah, I'm going. They said, oh yeah, I'm here, come see me. So I told them I was on my way. I was terminal for 48 hours. I didn't know I needed a special visa as an American. So this is a little travel tip for you. Like Brazil, we didn't mention, you need a 10-year visa in your passport that you need to do all the checks and embassy balance. It's not cheap, and it's tedious. And the same thing for Argentina. However, in Argentina, you could get it like easier. You didn't have to do as much. There was not as much bureaucracy as the Brazilian visa. But for those who don't know, for Brazil, they probably found out when they tried to go down there for the Olympics and they ain't get in. But for other people who've never been to Argentina, I don't know, Kenecia, if you felt the same thing. Did you know already? Because I got there and they was like, sis, we can't get in. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
they sent my ass back to Chile.
Things have changed. For Brazil, they do an online visa. However, they've suspended it since. and you can move about freely with just your American passport, as well as Argentina. At the time when I went in 2018, I did not need a visa for Argentina or Chile either, but I did do the hop around. And a really good travel tip is to buy all your one ways. So if you start in like a Rio or something like that, you want to go down to Buenos Aires and then go to Santiago and up to Peru, and buy them all at one time, and you'll save more money than you can even imagine. But no visas are required at this time. But with who we have in office,
We ain't about to go
stay
nowhere.
posted. Yeah,
Listen,
so no surprises.
Don't nobody
Yeah.
run this. They gonna be like, America.
I know
Never.
they're gonna be like, it's gonna be like the reverse discrimination that we, given to other countries. So
That's why I use my
Absolutely.
CONCACAF passport. Like, I'm good on the American one.
yeah.
No,
But
I
even
am
when I
too, but
went
I think
to
that you also
Cuba-
brought up a point, is because since we don't know how things are going to be, you probably should look it up. So even if you
Gotta
listen
look
to
it
this,
up.
Yeah.
she hasn't gone in
Absolutely.
2018. I don't know. I guess I haven't gone. I don't know what I was there, 2015 or 2014. So please know that just check the embassy and see what they're saying in advance. I probably
Absolutely.
felt, as an avid traveler, someone who's lived out the country already, I was pretty much embarrassed to be flown back to the country that I came from and literally stuck in the airport for 2 days, trying to figure out how the hell I get back to Argentina, which is where I was supposed to be for the next couple of weeks. And so just know that in advance. That one didn't require a visa in your passport like how Brazil is. This one was just a paper printout version that once you pay for it and get approved for it, you can just go right on a plane and print it out. So, but yeah, I finally made it to Mendoza, which is where this wine is from.
Listen, I didn't end up going to Argentina because at the time when I was living in Colombia, that's when I did a lot of my South American travel. So that's when I went to Cuba, all of those places around it, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't go to Argentina because I met a guy who talked about how he was like, oh yeah, like we don't have Black people in Argentina. And I was like, what? And I did some research about, so hold
that to after this wine.
Oh, I'm like, they tried to erase any Black people from
hold that.
Maybe he meant African Americans. Maybe that's what he meant.
I'm drinking 14% white wine right now, so I didn't know where we wanted to go. Y'all have the red. I'm not there yet. So I'm telling you,
it's about to get real interesting up in here.
I'll hold it. Okay, never mind. Just kidding. I'll hold my secret.
Just kidding. Well, we have a blend. It's actually 40% Malbec and 30% Cabernet Sauvignon. So we had it's actually a single varietal per the bottle, but we had Brother Charles check that, but it's mainly Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile. So it's good to be able to have them side by side. I love doing comparison tastings because you get to talk about color variations. It's easy to say the wine is red, but if you have two wines side by side, you can say it helps you look at when you're a beginner, what kind of red, if that helps, is it like cherry or is it more like burgundy, the color, so, and then the intensity of the color, etc. So let's just talk about color since we're talking about sight right now. Mine's is definitely more purple, and that's Malbec.
That's Malbec.
It's deeper in the color.
Yeah, and so you always, Kenecia, want to hold the glass low, like so not in the air, but you actually want to look at it. And if you have paper or anything in front of you at a 45-degree angle, just to be able to see a true version of the color, okay?
It has some red in there too. Like I don't know, like the rim of mine is like very red, but in the inside it's very deep,
So
Look at you evaluating wine the way you actually should from core to rim. Come on, Queen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But would you agree if I said it was pink? Do you see it? You do have a lot of wine for your glass.
There's a lot of wine in that glass.
That's probably hard for you to evaluate.
Yeah, hold on, I can fix that. Okay.
You could do it even in this, but I mean, to see how deep it is, you probably go with a good amount.
I see that it reminds me of a lip color called Strawberry Kiss. So you're right, and there's a little bit of like a magenta kind of color in the background of it.
Yes,
yeah.
Magenta. And then from magenta, then you get to that dark, that deep part for me is straight plump, like purple.
Yeah. Like Welch's grape jelly or something.
All right, Kelly, you've been quiet. We even need to send you to Brazil or something.
No,
But,
I'm not as well traveled as you all. I hope I get to start traveling more.
no. There's no way. And that's why it's a
I
good
haven't
thing.
been to those places, but I would love to. I definitely took a lot of mental notes.
You and I already had conversations. So first start is me getting you to Portugal, and then we'll talk about the South American trip that I'm going to put together on the other side of the equator. So don't worry.
I'll meet you back in Portugal. Yes.
That is on the top of my list. I cannot wait to go. But
Kelly, I would so host you. I would take you around the whole world. I would call it hashtag little trips. I'm coming.
Wait a minute. I want a sugar mama. Can you take me?
I'm like, I'm tall. I feel like there's height discrimination now.
Come through.
I know. It's like, what about the tall girls?
Well, then, CiCi, we gonna do our own tall tales then.
Let's do it.
See, I like that. We can
tall
link
tales,
up.
Honey.
I like that.
Tall tales and short trips. We'll just pick a country and meet up.
Yes, Queens. I'm down for that.
I do believe, like, all of us on this call, we all have to do a trip together and do like a marathon.
It will
It's
happen.
done.
It will
It is
happen.
done. We have to.
The C's is planning. First is let me put the group together. Let the world see what we can give.
Exactly.
And then it's about how do I expose non-wine drinkers to wine, right?
Exactly.
So because CiCi is learning about grapes, places they visited and probably didn't know they even asked for it. And then we have wine people who are not even been able to touch the places that they sell. I'm sure Kelly sells wine from Argentina.
Yep.
Sterling definitely has a large portfolio, but it's never been there. So I think that is, and I didn't say this in the beginning, but having both of my industries, like how Kenecia said, she's in beauty and travel, being in wine and experiences, travel being one of them, this is a cool way for me to show people that when you actually touch it, it's a different approach. You actually connect with the wine in a different way that no certifications or pins can give you, or textbooks or whatever. When you touch it, you smell it, you meet the people, have the meat, which is big. I'm like, it's for me, I think I'm meat sensitive, like how Shakera feels about the flowers, because I don't eat meat, so I can always smell it. I'm always like this, what's that?
That means you can smell Syrah a mile away then.
Yeah, for me, I can smell meats all the way. I'm like, ooh, this smell like a good steak. They're like, how you know? I'm like, don't worry, I know.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have a hard stop in a few minutes. I'm actually working this weekend, which is trash. We have a large upgrade this weekend, so I actually have to jump on a call at work.
IT people.
Oh no.
It's the worst.
Yeah, we even get into the good stuff yet. We still just
I know.
All right, let's get to this wine.
No.
IT during the pandemic is for a hospital might be the worst hospital experience imaginable.
Wow.
Well, shout out to you for still holding it up, because you've been smiling on IG like a G. You've been on IG like a G.
You know, hair laid, you got the bump and everything, the curl stacked, the sweat. We see you. We see you out here. We appreciate it.
Meanwhile, I just want to get in the shower and curl this bad boy back up, because sleeping with this straight hair, I just straightened my hair this week, and it is reminding me how much I hated doing that whole process. Like, I had to put on a shower cap and was like, what is this? What I want to do anymore.
Looking good,
but this is I'll jump up when I need to without being disruptive. But I just want to thank Sha and everyone. I mean, I know Charles and Kelly, but CiCi and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say KL, but that's what's there because I can't remember. Kenecia, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's been such a pleasure connecting with you all. I love geeking out about wine, but it's a special kind of geek out and love when you're doing it with people that are the same hue as you. I just thank Sha for the opportunity, and it was a super, super pleasure. And I'm sure that this is the first of the many chats.
Yeah, we have to keep this going.
I'm going to cut you off because I want you to be a part of this tasting, and let's have that conversation before you leave, okay? So I want you know what? We're not even going to go around the room. We're going to let you go through the tasting for this, and then we can start talking about the Black travel movement and Blacks and wines right after that. If you're still here with us, that'll be great, but let's go through the wine.
I mean, I love this wine. Very reminiscent of a Mendoza, specifically Malbec, lots of blue and black fruit, juicy blue and black fruit to me that I very much like. I think that The concentration of the fruit is coming from the Malbec, but I'm also getting like this strengthy, muscular tannins from the Cabernet. And it makes for a great wine that absolutely makes me want a very well grilled steak with some nice fattiness, because the wine also has great acid that I think would be perfect with like a nice juicy ribeye or skirt steak. So this is delicious to me.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because I don't know if anybody else is picking up the menthol
Mhm.
on the nose. I haven't tasted yet, but on the nose is this strong, I feel like I don't want to call it cigarettes, not cigar. It's like this menthol cigarette moment that's happening too.
I almost said eucalyptus, but it wasn't eucalyptus. Menthol is more of what I'm getting. I think it's delicious.
Nice.
I think this wine needs more time.
For sure.
Definitely.
I feel like the wine is good right now. It's funny because, as you already heard me talk about my juicy steak, I would pair this perfectly with pan-sealed tuna. And so for me, that's usually my substitute. And when it has this the difference between the more savory cab that we had earlier versus this blend of Malbec, there is this purple fruit texture that Shakera talked about, and that tuna is going to go awesome with it. And you all know it has the pepper wrapped around it perfectly, cut it, and that pink open.
But there you
And
go,
it's like,
also debunking the myth that you can't have red wine with fish, right?
oh yeah, well that's anybody that followed me knows that I always have red wine with fish.
I also stand corrected on the Torrontés now that it's rested in the glass. The
Woo!
floral notes.
I'm glad you came in on the end. And CiCi gonna pick you up and tell you,
The
girl,
floral
this
notes
wine.
have calmed down.
I've been trying to tell you.
I find the wine much more in balance. Drinking it now, we're about a half hour of this glass, much more in balance. I still want the same. I still think it's an incredible food pairing, but I think that the fattiness and the heaviness that I was getting when it first opened up has subsided. So I stand corrected on letting that.
It's a whole new level over here. It's a whole new level.
But Shakera, when you said that it was strong and muscular, it's exactly the way I want to date someone that's strong and muscular. And when I first smell it, it does smell strong and a little intimidating, but I like that because then I'm still gonna go in for it. And then I hit it with a little taste, and it's kind of like softly fruity. It feels like velvet. Like I imagine like his chest hairs.
Oh, that is definitely.
Come on, velvet chest hair.
This is an iron. You know what? This is an iron fist in a velvet glove, right?
Yes.
This is
iron fist in a velvet glove.
Yes. We can do a whole thing on. So I like comparing wine and grapes to women. Like this week I did Zinfandel, and I said Zinfandel's a black woman because Zinfandel, like, I'm over this shit. I'm out of here. I'm done. I don't like any of this terroir. It's too hot. There's too many other things going on. I'm leaving, right? And so I think that. Like,
so hold on, now I got a question. So white Zinfandel, is she mulatto?
White Zinfandel.
I'm done. I'm done.
She mixed.
Bye. Identity.
Bye.
White Zinfandel is the girl has no name. That's what white Zinfandel
is. A girl has no name. I just, questions that need answers.
They need answers.
Listen,
but
that's a real question.
I think that I like describing wines with characteristics and color and other things other than just like the very academic way that we can intellectually do this. But I think that all of the feminists or whoever that wants to argue with me about whether a wine is feminine or elegant or muscular, I think that this is a muscular wine. I think that it's very structured. There's a lot of tannin. There's good alcohol. There's a very good integration of oak. And I think that this is an enjoyable wine, but I agree with Sha. If you let him calm down, right? Like he came in the scene too much. Like
he got potential.
It's
the girl from the hood.
That
if she actually studied, buckle down.
Can we, you know what, Sha? I think you all hit on something that is talking about accessibility. What if you created a whole series that it wasn't in this intellectual, unaccessible ways in how you describe wine, but like the childhood, everyday person? Because I think more people could see themselves in experiencing wine if you articulate it in a way that they could connect with. Because you say like, oh,
I think everyone here. We do it in different ways.
Like Charles, but will fight in the middle.
Yes. Like if you say, instead of saying like oak, and you say backwood, You know what I mean? That can help somebody really get
Black
the
and Miles to describe,
Yes.
listen.
like
It's a vibe.
this is the corporate dude that somebody gonna say something crazy
And he gonna
he's
snap.
reminded that he really from 145th and St. Nick, right? Like real quick.
It's him.
That's
It's
what
him.
this
Wait, that's my cousin.
I'm here for
But
this.
I like to use terms that people can relate to, because I
I
think
love that.
people that study wine, I mean, it is something, if you start studying, you love it because it's amazing and you do like to geek out about it. But I think that especially for people of color, you understand, like, you don't want to talk to people when you're being authentically intellectual, but you don't want people to look at you like, girl, what? Like, what the fuck is bergamot? Like, I don't know what that smells like, so I can't do that with you.
Right.
You know, so when you mention like, well, my fragrances match cassis, right? But if I say cassis and you've never had it, you don't know what the hell that is. Like, what does that smell
Right.
like? What does that taste like? But if you could bring in like, girl, you ever smell, you know, Tom Ford's blah, 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 that is what this smells like. So if you know what that smells like, so like when I say dried rose petals to somebody, I normally say like potpourri. You know that little bowl your grandma had that shit that smelled good for like 2 days.
That she put in her underwear drawer to smell good.
Everything
Wow.
smells like potpourri. You know what I mean? If you want to describe cedar, again, it's that
Right.
wood thing that your grandmother hung in her closet. Like, grandma, it's
Yeah.
like a funeral home in here. What is that?
Yeah, it's
So
an
I think that
experience.
makes it relatable.
Yeah. It definitely is an
People
experience. Every bottle is an
usually-
experience.
They
Absolutely.
connect experience, they connect flavors. So in my case, I love just making sure I talk about foods that's tapped into our cultures. So usually for me, if I'm, and it also is about your audience, right? I'm not going around, listen, I was serving in a restaurant in Portugal, talking about stuff that I had at a cookout in New York City. So that like, you gotta know.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing that, it's because the people at that table tell me they from New York, like, so they would understand what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that they don't have corn in Portugal, but a New Yorker or someone that's from the South that's visiting, that's a tourist in my restaurant, they would know a little bit more when I say it's giving you that like Old Bay, you know. They're like, oh, they're like, okay. So I think that it's about not just Kara's talking about a good thing, which is experience in moments, or making it a human character when you're talking about the wine and making it relatable. But you can also do the same thing with spices and foods. Tony Chachere's, if you're from New Orleans, versus as I call it, Mike Lowry's for the season up here. So I think that it just depends on you, or sazon, right? So it just, when you're talking, it's not just like, allspice and like you said, bergamot, you know, like if you know something authentically because you are part of that culture or you've been exposed to it. And that's why travel is so great for me when I'm talking about wine, because I've eaten there. So I may not be Portuguese and I may not be Brazilian, etc. But because I've had meals there and had the steak in Argentina now, etc. I gotta see these pictures. That steak gonna keep coming up until I find that picture. It's one of those things that we can connect from our own, you know, experience, our own food experience when we're young, instead of actually feeling like, oh, no one's gonna care about that because this is wine. It's supposed to be sophisticated. It's not supposed to be connected to the Black experience, brown experience, or people who just have, or indigenous experience, whatever food you're in. And so I try my best to kind of connect it to those, and people may never know who the Inuit people are. But understand that the Inuit people that are native to Canada have their own style of food. I don't care what kind of meat it is. If you've never had it, then you don't know how to connect when you're talking about wine to Native Americans from that region. But my travel allows me to have real conversations that connect with them.
And allowing people to speak from their experience, right? I remember blind tastings in for the first time, right? I did not, at that time, I don't know what jammy fruits versus stewed fruits were. What I know is that smelled like right around Christmas time when my mother and grandmother and aunts would cook dried fruits to make their rum cakes for the holidays, right? And so it took somebody going, okay, so you're talking about cooked fruits. That's what stewed jammy fruits translates to into wine, right? And so it's something as simple as that, right? So if I can make that connection, then I could go, you know what? You know that allspice that's in jerk sauce? That's why Zen and jerk chicken go well together, right? Because of that. So it's so important to make those cultural connections. And I wish that I had more time to talk more about the travels, but to understand what people eat so that you can say, all right, Joe, you know how that tastes? This is kind of what you're getting in this. And telling people to, when you go to your local green market, smell everything. I don't know, if you don't eat dill, you're never going to pick up American oak and wine, because that's what dill smells like in wine. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's making it okay to say, I don't know what this is, but it smells something sort of like, and then using your intellect and your training to go, okay, are we talking this or this? And just, but that's where our representation matters, because somebody that looks like us is more likely to be like, sis, I don't know, it smells like wine, I think, or something. Whereas if it's Becky or John or Tim, they're like, oh, this is good. Thank you. It's great. Thank you. And they don't learn anything.
I love Black people. I just
before Kara, because I know you got to jump off real quick. You can end with this note, and then we'll pick up from everybody else. So when you silently disappear, we still have the conversation going. So one of the notes I did make sure I remembered from earlier is I wanted to talk about that Black travel movement, which whether it's at its peak right now or has, now is going, the curve is going down, who knows? Not because of COVID-19, but just the idea of it. But yet the wine, Blacks in Wine, however, is kind of on the coattail, I would say, of the Black travel movement. I don't think they have one to do the same, but I think that exposure, sophistication, it comes attached to travel, right? When you tell people I've been to 40 countries, they go, where does Black girl from? And then, maybe the next step after travel may be wine, right? Because maybe for me, it's always a souvenir. I just left this country. I'm geeked out about Argentina now. All I want to do is drink all the Argentinian wines to continue to relate that to my palate. We didn't even talk about Carmenere, but me just having an experience with Carmenere when I was down in Chile, for example, allowed me to appreciate it, for better or worse, in a different way when I came back to New York. And now I'm crazy about it in a way where I can go, nah, I don't want that version of it. Some people don't know it or had enough of it to be able to make that kind of distinction. But I had it almost like every day in Chile on purpose, because I wanted to be able to understand why people thought it was or not good, or why they think it was more low. And so I can evaluate that for myself. So I say all that to say, and I'm gonna let Kara pick up on this, talk about you can even tie in the movie Uncorked on Netflix, but just talk about what you see or what you would love to see, let's just say, for the future of Blacks in Wine. POC.
I think that the
We're finishing. She can come over here.
I think that the interest is definitely growing. It's similar to when the Black travel movement started, where you had Black people going to more than Miami and Cabo and, DR and those places, where like at one point that was the standard. And I think that at one point among Black wine enthusiasts, as long as you were drinking something other than Moscato, you were eligible. Right. But the thing is, you still drinking cheap Pinot Noir. That doesn't matter the price point. The problem is that is not what Pinot Noir actually is as a grape. So I think that now we're at a point where it's a delicate balance between people studying and geeking out, people just being open to drinking more. But there's also an issue of everybody being an expert, but you don't really know what you're talking about. And I think that is where I sometimes get a little bit of a villainous repertoire attached to me, because I can teach kids how to add, but I'm not a teacher. And I would never position myself as one, because that's its own thing. Right? I'm not a sommelier, because I don't work the floor. I don't sell wine. I don't do any of that. And so I know my lane. I know that what I can do is, by my studies, I can teach other people wine in a relatable way. I think Charles is one of the most eloquent and brilliant wine educators. And I model a lot of my teaching style based on the way he approaches it and talks. But I think that we have to, as in anything we do, we still have to be able to check each other and be like, sis, that's wrong. Like, and it's not wrong because I'm better than you. It's not wrong because I'm a wine snob. It's wrong because it's factually wrong, and you shouldn't tell people that. Because I think what happens is a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, we need to be more represented in this space. Okay, but what if that's not what someone wants to do? Like, if I don't want to work the floor in a restaurant, how do we get more Black sommeliers? I mean, I don't know. If you don't want to be a sommelier, you don't. If you don't want to be in luxury wine sales and high-end wine sales, then you don't. So then what we need to do is support the Kellys, support the Shahs, support the Charleses in the space that they're already in. But I think now with Instagram, everybody's a wine influencer. Everybody takes, you know, I don't take 50,000 pictures of myself like this. Because I don't get what that tells you always. I just don't have them. I don't take them. I don't do them. There's literally over 100 bottles of wine in my house right now. And
Don't worry, Kelly showed us her view. We believe you. Don't worry.
But like, that's not my lane. And I think that a lot of people, and even these wine brands, you know, when they want to find a person of color to add diversity, they go on Instagram, they find who has 10, 15, 20,000 followers, and they go with that. Whether or not that person is knowledgeable, whether or not that person is credible, whether or not that person is going to just read the card that you send them with the tasting notes versus actually being able to detect tasting notes and relate to people and connect with them. So I think on that side, the industry needs to do better. Like, a Black face is not the solution, right? An educated Black resource that understands the material and the content is what is useful. That's what propels us and our visibility. That's what drives people. Every week, what I get from people is not, girl, I love that picture that you took. I bought that bottle. What I get is, I joined on Sunday. I would have never bought Malbec because I had one and it was too much. But now that you mentioned that Malbec from Cahors might not be what I want to drink, but maybe from Mendoza, I think it is, you said, I went to my wine shop and I bought that bottle from Mendoza. And you're right, I do like it. That's what I care about.
And I think you hit on two major points, both the consumer side as well as the influencer brand, whatever business side. And I'm sure, and that's also important, right? So even if we want to use co-brand, and I can tell you my honest opinion now, and I'm guessing you can get that. Anybody that's following, no one told us what to say. They didn't even tell me what to do. They literally said, "Child, we want you to have these wines and have at it." And I said, you know what? I would like to share them with my community in this way. And they was like, whatever. They gave me free realm. And I told them what United We Taste was. I had previous episodes for them to look at. And they gave me the approval, thumbs up, go have at it. And I think that you can tell when someone is investing in what your actual vision is of your own brand. They're not trying to turn you to like, oh, well, can you just do this way? Or if no one's going to put all these extra restrictions, I've already given to the world on my Instagram, on YouTube, what I want to give. So if you like that style, then you will participate in it by helping us all have wines from Texas to DC to New York so that we can have this moment in discussion together. And I feel like I just wanted to use that as an example of positive, when brands are working with the people.
That's the right way
reaching out
to do
to.
it. Because what happens is
censoring us in a way.
I don't consider myself an influencer. Yet every day my DM has, we'd love to send you these wines. And if you could do a post for us, you can send me a wine. And I won't say anything publicly bad about it. But if I taste it and I don't like it, I'm not posting it. Right. Also, you're not going to send me one bottle of $18 wine and then tell me to post it. Well, what do I get from all your sales, right? Because you don't find it important to invest marketing dollars in someone that looks like me. So you want to send me free wine so that I do it for you. I don't do anything for free. Not in life, not in wine, not in nothing. So if you want me to market your wine to my demographic that I have an in, then I need you to talk to me like I understand wine, right? I need you to tell me why you think my demographic and my audience can appreciate this. So if you're not coming to me with text sheets, if you just want an influencer, I could give you 5 people that you should hit up, but it's not me. Because if I'm going to share wine with my people, I'm going to share it intellectually, but in a way that they can understand and then go, okay, girl, I trust you. I'm gonna give that one a try.
It must meet your market, right? It makes no sense for us to talk about wine. In this case, if I actually want to be here, you would all, like normally on United We Taste, have to go out and buy your own wine and then join us. So the fact that I'm saying, hey, I want to send wine to, not including myself, 6 people, multiple bottles, then okay, that means you're investing in the discussion that I've already created. I created a platform that's talking about wine with professionals that's in these industries, in this case, travel and in wine, so that we can have a dialogue, in this case, about the same wine in one area of the world that gets less love. And everybody know that is my mission. I just mentioned that earlier. So don't send me any Burgundies. I'm not saying I'm not going to drink them and I won't love them, but you will be helping me out.
Oh, because if they're white Burgundies, I'll take them.
Send her the Burgundies, no. I'm just saying, but you'll be helping me push my agenda further by actually sending me wines that's along with my mission. Not trying to say I don't love Burgundy, the wines are not going to be great. But if you really want to support my mission, help me elevate areas that people are not talking about. Central Otago, New Zealand, South Africa, Bio area in Chile. Like there are small places, Patagonia, that needs to be discovered.
Yo, Bodega Shakera in Patagonia.
Shakera's amazing.
But like, I'm gonna let
one of them talk about travel.
I'm gonna jump up, but I want to write about these wines. I want to share these wines. I want to point them in the direction of wine.com. Like, yo, y'all gotta get these. These are good wines and they are affordable. So, I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I love you. I hate that I have to go and work. Curses.
Now we're gonna wait for you in the chat box sending us messages.
But can we get a cheers in, like a toast in before she dips?
Yes, I'll pour more.
I'll pour more of my same white wine.
Y'all are so dope. Shaw, thank you for organizing this.
Let me see if I can get a screenshot. Hold on.
Oh, let me do my influencer pose. You ready?
Let's see if we can pick that up. But if not, then I'll just do a screenshot. Let's see if he says yes. No words yet.
Philippe walked away.
Okay. Yeah, let me get the bottle and I'll just do this. So I can say I was drinking.
Let me try to hide my camera. Okay, I can hide my camera and get it too. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
You got to hit the different angles.
Left shoulder, right shoulder.
Thanks, Shakera. We're gonna go ahead. I know you're gonna be listening to us in the background, and you're gonna be like, you know what?
No,
we didn't do the.
Okay, he's gonna get it. Okay.
We didn't do the black people laugh. You have to do the.
Oh, that's a rich person laugh.
You gotta do the.
Kelly did it.
Yes, that's the one for the flyers. Like, I want to be those carefree black people.
Bye,
glasses in their hand. Bye.
CiCi, jump in here because I know that your work as an activist and coming down to Chile, you were scouting out musicians. That was, I remember that. That was a whole moment. I was excited. I was like, oh God.
I wanted to see what the organizers are doing, what the young folks were doing. So interesting. I wrote down a list of where the hell I was. Cause and this is not, cause it's not to be braggy, but sometimes when you travel a lot, things kind of mix together and you're like, where the hell was I? I don't know what I was doing. I was just there in these streets. So the historic quarter of the seaport, that's where it's like, basically, if you go, I think that's where that Singhalese man was y'all was talking about. But basically it's like the port. And it's kind of like the pier in New York where all of the creative folks hang out.
Wait,
and
that's Santiago?
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say it was a big statue of a white man, but that doesn't necessarily make it more distinctive. Okay, it was literally like a dock. You don't remember that?
Santiago de Chile? I don't remember anywhere. All I saw was mountains.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm gonna send you a link. because I have a picture in
I
front of
remember
it.
they had the largest mall in South America. I remember that.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And everybody was just kind of hanging out, chilling. Chile for me was interesting. I don't know about you all. The place where I felt like I saw the most culture or experience was Casa Blanca, when I went to the vineyards and learned about the wines, etc. But in Santiago de Chile, I felt like something was missing. I don't know. When I went out at night, it felt like people.
Kelly cooking.
Yeah, she's
You said what?
Kelly cooking. She like, y'all go ahead with the Zoom joint. Let's just let me cook and get into it.
Yeah, it just felt like something was missing. The folks who, like, I was able to, sneak off into different places and talk to some of the indigenous folks, and I felt a little bit more grounded. But aside from that, I don't know, something felt like it was missing. Maybe coming from Colombia, where culture it's in your face, regardless of where you are. There's color, there's people, there's food, there's smells. I didn't have that same experience in Chile. I don't know about everybody else, but I do want to talk about why, when you're ready, why I didn't go to Argentina, child. But anyway, back to Chile.
Okay. We'll talk about that as well. I just wanted to mention that with Chile, how far down did you go, or where you said you was in just the cities? You were in Santiago, and where else?
I stayed in the central area. I didn't
Santiago.
travel. That's the one thing that I wish I would have done, was done a little bit more travel up and down the country. I didn't have the time.
Okay.
I only had a couple weeks, yeah.
I went over to Valparaiso, which is
Ooh.
literally Casa Blanca is in the
Yes,
middle,
closer.
closer to the actual ocean, and so you get a lot of the influence from the ocean. So that's why they're known for their cool climate whites. Sauvignon Blanc from Casa Blanca is top. Kelly, you could jump in now. She's like, Juan, you talking?
Kelly is ready.
Casa Blanca, even for if you like stainless steel Chardonnay, so people who like Chardonnay but they don't like that oaky, buttery feel, you can get one from there. I actually was just talking to someone the other day. They said, where else besides Chablis if they're going to be too expensive? And I was like, go look for Chilean Casa Blanca Chardonnay. Most likely it's going to be stainless steel. You can get that nice ocean coming in. Kelly, you agree? You got one, off the top of your head from that area?
I can't think of a specific producer at the moment, but in general, I do like the steely, lighter, leaner style whites from Chile and Argentina. I think they're really pretty and minerally, and especially given we were talking before about climate, but just it gives you a sense of where to look for these specifics, like style of wines based on the temperature, because in a lot of areas, most of us tend to like wines that are grown in cooler climates or more moderate climates, because heat can really be challenging to deal with when it comes to ripening grapes or over ripening grapes and a host of other issues. So yeah, those wines are really pretty. That was a great recommendation.
Yeah, and they have a lot of organic farming. I think Alta Vista is all organic from those areas. They do dry farming, and so that's how you end up picking up as much of the terroir as possible when they go organic. So I always appreciate that. And hopefully they're not adding extra chemicals in the winery, right? So that you can actually get what you're from the terroir to the glass. But Kelly, since I have you talking before you start chopping up the greens, girlfriend, tell me what country, we're sticking to South America for right now. It can be wine related or not, but where would you like to go?
It's so hard. I'm gonna say Chile.
Really? Oh, that never happens, I'm sure. But I hope that means we've convinced you. But yeah.
Because I like the Chilean wines. I think they're such terroir-driven wines and so expressive, and I'm just interested in exploring that more. So for sure.
Awesome.
What you cooking, girl? It's looking real healthy over there.
Kale salad. I'm like, I am starving. I just need to start prepping my late lunch.
Yeah.
You so healthy.
You so healthy. Charles, you too. What country would you like to visit in South America? Wine related or not?
I think I definitely want to go. I mean, like I love this this whole topic because it's under the radar for so many wine consumers and wine experts, and I just love it. And Chile, from being they are known for a value region, but they also make some really high quality wines, but they want to find a nice middle ground which I think this be lovely. But I think the place that strikes me the most, based on the desert-like conditions to the Arctic-like conditions, is Patagonia, Argentina. So
Patagonia, and you can get Patagonia.
Okay.
Argentina, you said, okay.
Everybody might want to know what I'm doing, but I am being crashed right now. And so I want to respectfully say goodbye. She's asking questions about wine that I can't answer, but thank you so much for answering those questions for me and teaching me so many things about this industry. And I'm so proud of you and all the things that you've done. You are really amazing. And she's a Pisces too.
Hey, Pisces.
So you already know what's happening here. And Kelly, I love you. I miss you. And I will get you around the world.
Yes.
I will.
Holding her story from Argentina back. So you better, I don't know if you're going to listen in or if you're going to stay put for 1 second so she can tell her story. Why she
Who's telling the story? Okay, I want to hear it. So I'll push mute and I'll listen.
Okay.
Well,
I'll keep it short. The only reason why I didn't go to Argentina is because when I was living in Colombia, I met this Argentinian man who said, "Oh, we don't have Black people in Argentina because we killed them off all during the war." So I'll send you all some articles. So basically, literally what they did were all the folks who were formerly enslaved, who were then free, they put them on the front line when they were fighting a big war against, I can't remember the country, I'm sure maybe Spain, I don't know. And basically they killed off like 80 to 90% of their Black population because they put them on the front line. So his whole thing was like, yeah, we don't have them. And basically talking about how he viewed Black people. And then when I started to talk to some of my friends who went to Argentina and didn't have the best experience, I was like, I'm not about to give these people my money if they're not checking for Black folks. Not to say that I wouldn't go eventually, but at the time I was solo traveling. So I didn't want to go to a place that didn't have like a good group of people that I could connect with, and two, was not welcoming to someone, especially a woman by herself. So nonetheless,
that makes sense.
That's my quick Argentinian story. So I'm curious to know for folks who went what their experience was.
No, I totally get it.
I landed.
What were you saying, Charles?
I'm
sorry.
Oh, no, so I totally get that. Thanks for sharing that. I never heard that story, so thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to push it only because you just probably got to dig deeper. I'm glad to hear about. Now I got to do the investigation about the war.
I'll send you some articles, child.
Okay. A lot of people don't know. There's a whole documentary on how the tango is basically started by Black people or African descendants in Argentina.
Of course.
And it may sound like, oh yeah, we all created that, but there's literally a documentary that documents that. And I was appreciative when someone had posted it. And then when I actually saw it in person here in New York City, it was great for me to like follow. I think they was on a road showing it as a Sundance film festival kind of thing. And so I seen it not in a movie theater, but at a theater. And that just kind of tapped into what I understood Argentina to be, where you have to, not that they don't exist, but you have to dig deep. So, and that's another thing when you talk about Black and brown people and exclude South America. That happens often, unless it's Brazil, Guyana, et cetera, but in Colombia, when you talk to people.
There's tons of Afro-Colombians. Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about wine. People think South Africa, when we talk about persons of color, winemakers that's here in the States, they don't even check for South Americans that may be brown, Black people who are actually making wine down there. And so that was something I know now is late in our, in this, but literally this was something I wanted to at least bring up, because I realized that when I was there, just like how we highlight vintners from other countries that are obviously brown and Black, but like you said in the beginning, if they're not really checking the box that say that they are, we kind of like ignore them or don't know they exist, or there's not a lot of them. And so you have to go out your way to do a little bit more research, or again, be on the ground, like where I am in Portugal, doing kind of like the harder work, because you got to do the research. Those winemakers may not be the ones getting the high publicity, but it's also because they don't have this kind of Black movement happening in the countries that they in. So people are not hashtagging them, et cetera. So you have to be the one to go out there and make those connections. And so it's interesting. I look at it from both ways. So when I was in Argentina, I did have those connections because, like I mentioned, I had friends who responded to my post on Facebook that I was coming in for the 2 weeks. And then I connected with them before I went over to Mendoza in Buenos Aires. And I had a great time, but I also saw that there was a lot of you want to say, the hip hop culture was very live there. You know, going out to clubs there was insane. I still remember that party, like it's like if it happened yesterday. I was like, when do we go home? Like when does this end? And this was during the time when the stinky leg was out. People was doing the stinky leg hard. I was like, I ain't never seen somebody breaking down. This lady was killing it. I got all types of videos to prove it. And it was funny just thinking like how I was there. And that was my first night there because I landed on the weekend. And so it was insane just seeing how the culture just goes further than what you may hear, like how you heard CiCi, and you went after me. So I can only imagine that it probably was more heavier, prevalent if you went versus when I went probably 4 years before you. And you know, you'll get there. I know you will. But I just wanted to mention that about Argentina as well. Like we need to think about it in both the wine space and as travelers, that every country is not going to be so, all right, I'm here, where's the Black folks? Or how do I support, you know, Black businesses like we are here and so openly doing that in the States. We have to be the ones to go a little bit further to make that connection and to do that research. So just
yeah. So on that note, like Patagonia really stands out to me because it's closer to the 50th parallel, like it's colder down there. So then Pinot Noir, I love Pinot Noir, it grows better down there sometimes. And then just to see that the dichotomy of desert to Arctic to all kind of interesting geology and geography and climates in one country, which really fascinates me. I do know there's a history of like aristocracy when it comes to Argentine people. And I've heard that and I've dealt with that at some tastings before. But yeah, I mean, it still fascinates me to kind of go check it out. But then this conversation has been so healthy and so lovely that I wanted to talk about some things that Shakera brought up too, is like, when I teach wine classes and, you know, some people don't have the same frame of reference that I may have, I try to make it more accessible, where when I talk about like white Zinfandel, for example, I talk about when we were in college, we probably bought Franzia boxes and had that kind of stuff. And we had house parties and had white Zinfandel, whatever. That's a frame of reference that a lot of people can relate to. Sometimes when I talk about rosés, sometimes I bring in like watermelon Jolly Ranchers that people can relate to. So there's a frame of reference there. So if I say something else, like watermelon rind or something else, it may not hit, but I can reach them where they are. It's almost like church, like come as you are with the information, you know, and then we'll welcome you and we'll deal with it when you come and you ask, and we'll talk about it. And it's actually a discussion. It's not like, I don't want to talk down to my students. I want to talk with my students. I want to have dialogue with my students and really understand what they are looking for, what their questions are, because that's my role. To me, I want to make people appreciate wine through education. I think if you develop appreciation for it, then you really can understand it in the very vast ways that it exists. So a basic education and appreciation can go a long, long way in my book.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Charles. My daddy's name is Charles, by the way. So
there go another Charles. They always around. Yeah. And we got Kenecia back in, but we're gonna wrap up anyway. I just wanted to thank you all for joining me. I don't know if there was any last words or last questions to each other before I actually formally ended, but yeah, just wanted to give you guys some love, and I would love to be. And when I thought about who I would really want to be around having this discussion with, I haven't had time to kick it with CiCi in person or Kenecia because we're always bouncing around. Girl, I ain't there, I'm here. I'm not there, I'm here. And so it's hard to do that. And then you could imagine when it comes to Kira, Kelly, and Charles, they're like, I see it on Instagram you here, but are you really here? And so I get these.
She moves too fast.
I'm like, Kelly, I was there, now I'm back in Portugal. And so it's been, so this has been a good moment for me to have you all in one room. And you know how my heart feels full to be able to know and hear you all doing good during these times. You know, there is moments where we can feel defeated, unmotivated, wavered by many things, death, etc. And so I'm just happy to be able to connect with you all, see these smiling faces over wine, and whether it was going live or not, I would want to have this experience. It just gave me the opportunity to put you all in one room, or as some of our friends in the travel industry say a lot, collaborate, don't compete, how it goes, Kenecia?
Yeah.
Go,
Mhm.
right? And so then we actually use that as a way to boost each other up instead of, everybody's on Instagram Live every 5 seconds. And so I love supporting you guys when you're doing things on live and letting people know, even if I physically can't join. And I think this is a way for us to all just kind of share our platforms with each other. And so I appreciate the virtual moment that we have and for what it is, but it doesn't take away from my real life experiences that I share with you and what I share with our consumers. And she's drinking from the bottle. It looks kind of dangerous.
Listen,
Water.
I just want to say thank you as someone who's in like the social justice, equity space and who's looking for opportunities to provide access for different people. I never considered wine, and I appreciate you bringing me along. Like, of course I travel, but similar to our homegirl that is on mute or jumped off, I'm not a wine connoisseur. So thank you for creating a point of access for me to feel welcomed in a part of a conversation of like you and Kelly and Charles who know what's going on. So thank you. I also really want to share and figure out a way for you to do this with some of the young people and activists and organizers that I work with, because I think it would be really great. And also I would love to support Charles and Kelly, like send me links. Would love to buy a bottle of wine or send it to someone else. And of course, we have to do a trip together. Yeah. Now that we're all on this, like we gotta go somewhere.
Well, what we're gonna get is we gotta do that. Argentina to package this as a thing. We're gonna go out there and make it happen. And so I'm glad, CiCi, you hit it on the nail. Your work in this industry. When people think about travel, they also don't think about activism, but it's a space that we're not included in. And so some of our friends that we, if you want to say, grew up with, as adulthood, have turned their businesses to very profitable organizations. And so we can say we're proud to have them as our peers, and we are doing what we do with travel. So that's been a nice key, to open the door, but we've been taking it in different ways. So I'm happy to be here with you and in the room with you, but I know that your work, whether it's you collecting with local musicians for the festival that you put together, the World Music Festival, or your work on the grounds with the youth and activism, you guys need to check her out. She's definitely, I don't know if you trying to run for governor soon or something.
Why does everybody saying that?
She out here doing the work.
Nah, bro.
She's trying to be somebody out here that's making the change happen. And so, I appreciate the work that you do too. Thank you for that.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you, friend.
As the only solo guy on the call,
Brother Charles.
It's just a beautiful experience to see like Black people, especially Black women, doing things that they love on their own terms. Because a lot of times it's not easy to do. Sometimes people wait around for somebody else to come along, then they do it, then they try to live their life. I'm just so happy. And then I know Shakera dropped off, but it's, she's doing her thing on Instagram, and she got this article written up by Huffington Post about things like virtual tastings to do during coronavirus. Kelly, she just released her wine club, Kelly Wine Selects. And then Charles, 40 under 40, and it's like doing the damn thing around the world. It's just amazing to see.
I got my virtual tastings. They're gonna make me go crazy, but yeah.
And then see, I mean, it's like
the Airbnb stuff. I want to talk to you about that.
Oh, yeah, you see that?
Yes.
And CiCi, to meet you today and understand how well traveled you are, and how important travel is to people in a larger general space and mentality is really, really beautiful. So I'm honored to be on the call, and thank you so much, Cha, for inviting me. And this discussion was amazing and lovely, and I hope there's more and more on this. And then I'm definitely down for the trip. So
right, Charles is coming, even as the solo dude. You down?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good.
We'll find you another Brazilian wife or whatnot.
I'm good. I'm that too.
Just saying.
Thanks, Charles. And I think you also mentioned something that was important that I forgot to say earlier too, was that I didn't start my wine journey saying I'm going to be in the wine industry or in hospitality. I started from travel. So to actually do this in this kind of other way, from living in Italy and literally being connected on the ground, I always like connecting people to travel as a different way. You know, we talked about vocabulary and feeling pretentious when we talk about wine. I didn't feel that when I was living in Italy. No one made me feel bad if I didn't know about the grapes, which I didn't when I was living in Italy. They like, okay, let's talk about this wine. And so that was how I got into it. And I wanted people to also feel that same connection from the way I did when living in Italy. So I think that that's important too. The perspective is off. When we're in New York City, it's easy to feel like someone's treating you this way when you talk about wine versus when you're in Europe, they drink wine at all levels, at all price points. I don't care if you're the janitor. I don't care if you're the CEO. Everybody drinks wine. So you probably need to see a different perspective of it to help you get into it too. So thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Kelly, you good? You about to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo everyone's sentiments. Thank you so much for including me. And I think it was a great complimentary conversation between wine and travel. And I'm so inspired by the fact that you're so successful in both spaces. And they're obviously clearly connected. And I look forward to traveling more with you all and sharing wine with you all. And I hope that we can, even before we do a trip, if maybe we can just meet up, you know, in New York, or when we can all be in the same, when we're all in the same space. It would be nice to just have it, like, share a dinner together or something like that.
Amen.
Yes.
Kelly,
one question. I'm sorry, Kelly, where did you get your necklace from? Just message me that.
It's Bobble Bar.
Cause we need that. Okay, appreciate you.
We need that.
AUBLE bar. It's a
Done.
they knock off like all the trendy stuff. So